So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to come today. I don't think as being part of a charity you necessarily get to come and talk about things that are not just about the charitable mission and the cause, but actually about what we also do professionally. And I think that's a myth I'd like to bust actually, because there's a lot of us working in the charity sector doing some really great stuff. Because as Toby says, we're given a real luxury. We have a really clear purpose and vision and mission. And so actually that enables us to spend a lot of time thinking about how we deliver that through that people. So it's really exciting that I can come along today. So, in terms of bringing CR UK's culture to life, I'm first of all just say a little bit about Cancer Research UK. Can I just check who's heard of Cancer Research UK? It's always worth checking. Who's raised money for us? Wonderful, that is fantastic news. So just a few facts and figures about us. We are the largest cancer charity in the UK, and we're the only one that research into all 200 different types of cancer. We're actually the second biggest funder of cancer research in the whole of the world. The only thing we're second to is the US government. So you can imagine the scale that we're operating at. I think we gave over 750 million last year to cancer research in the UK, and actually the UK government doesn't invest in cancer research because we're managing, with all the other cancer charities, to generate enough money to support that research agenda. We raised £500 million last year. There's always more we need to do though. The amount we could actually spend on researching cancer would fast outweigh any amount of money that we can raise. So I would encourage you all to continue to support us. And our ambition is very simple. It's to make sure that 3 in 4 people survive cancer. So in the past sort of 40 years, we've moved from 2 in 4 to 1 in 4, to 2 in 4, so half of people survive cancer. And we want to, in the next 20 years, get to 3 in 4 people surviving cancer. And given that these days 1 in 3 or 1 in 2, if you're men, will get cancer, that is a massive undertaking and something we're very proud of. But as I said, I'm not here today to talk about Cancer Research UK as a charity. I want to talk about the culture that we've tried to embed, because we do have a really clear mission and vision, but that doesn't necessarily easily translate into culture and how we actually want people to be at work. We have a lot of passionate people, but we still need them to get behind what we need to do to achieve, rather than believing that they solely can cure cancer or manage to resolve it. It needs us all working together. And it's a bit worrying about Carla and Imogen's talk. It's almost identical what we've tried to do, so I'm really, really pleased. Really pleased. Although I'm also going to talk about some of the challenges we've still got, so I'd love some views around how we can capture that. So in terms of our culture, we just define it as how we work around here. As you said, it's almost impossible to define what an actual culture is. So we just say it's how does it actually experience, how do people work around here? And rather than having values, so we've got brand beliefs. So the idea being that these are things that should underpin how we work. And I'm interested by it because, as you said, they're actually more energetic than honesty or integrity. But they are about believing that united we are stronger than cancer, that sharp minds and brave hearts win. And that's really important we've put the two together. We need the brightest people and we need people who are brave. And you shouldn't be brave without being smart. And you need to be smart, but you also need to be brave and take those risks. And that we believe our stories change the world. So that is the impact of the work that we can have really will make the difference. And our personality, which we also sought to define, is about being smart, brave, engaging and optimistic. And that is what we've set out. And it's interesting when you talk about not being given these by boards. When we did a rebrand about 2.5 years ago, we did this with our people. So we went out and we did a lot of research externally, and we heard that people didn't engage necessarily with Cancer Research UK as a brand. It was seen as men in white suits sitting behind desks doing research. So we wanted to make ourselves much more front of mind, help people understand that actually we are impacting every day. But we also work with our staff to say, what does the actual brand mean to you? And we developed those brand beliefs in conjunction with our staff. So that was one of the first things we did. I follow a very simple model for what makes culture, which admittedly is stolen from Deloitte, so if anyone around here, I feel I should name check them. So, for my days there. So I follow a model that in order to create a culture, you first of all need to raise awareness. So people actually need to know what it is that you're aiming for, which is why having things like values and beliefs present and out there are so important. You need to build role models, so that couldn't be more perfect than the gentleman dancing around, but you would need more than just one. You need to grow the skills and capabilities, so you really need to ask yourself, are there things that people physically can't do to act in that certain way? And you need to create reinforcers. And so this is particularly where I think the HR side of the profession can play a role. So it's how do you make it easier to work in a certain way than not? And that is through things like performance, through appraisals, through discussions, through a million things, and we'll talk about some of those later. So that's the sort of model we talk about here. So what have we done in terms of bringing it to life? I just thought I'd show you some of the things that we've done over the past couple of years to really try and make those beliefs come alive following that kind of model. So the first thing we've really done is sought to build it into everything. I don't expect you to be able to have a look at this, but we have tried to look at it through sort of light touch points in our environment. We've tried to look at a bit of how we work, so what do people do every day, and we've really looked at trying to embed it into every element of the employee life cycle, so before they join, all the way through, and then afterwards. And I'll reveal one of my secrets into it is we work very closely, I'm HR, with internal brand and with internal communications, so it couldn't have been better in terms of bringing that together. But the things that we think we've really helped, number one was definitely involving our people in our strategy and our rebrand. So both in the rebrand, which came up with the brand beliefs and the sort of the new external and internal brand for us, we involved people. But last year we relaunched our strategy, which was moving to this 3 in 4 people surviving cancer. And rather than just the board coming up with it, we involved people in the actual act of coming up with some of those ideas. But we did kind of get given the strategy a little bit by our board. And so we spent a lot of time going out to staff to say, if this is what we're hoping to achieve, how are you going to do it? So we ran workshops, we got people to run workshops locally, we gave them a very nice visual, but they didn't over-prescribe what was in the visual. We said, if this is what we want to aim and the things that we think are going to make the difference from the centre, what do you think you actually want to live and focus on? And we did a lot of briefings and we did a lot of engagement around that. And I do completely agree with what Imogen and Cara said. You cannot do it from the centre, from HR, or even from the board. It has to be done in conjunction with your people. We have spent time turning our beliefs into behavioural prompts. I call them behavioural prompts rather than a framework because we have said we can't guarantee every one of you necessarily has to act in this way. But we've got guidance on what good and less good ways of working against each of these would be. And we've developed these with our people. I think about 2 years in, we really heard that people went, they're lovely, but they don't mean anything to me. And we ran a week where we tried to help people see what these beliefs meant day to day. So we've got speakers, but we also ran sessions to say, what does united actually mean to you? What gets in the way, what doesn't? And that is what has given us a set of behavioural prompts. We now have a bit of a battle of getting it into performance, but we'll worry about that one next. At least we've got a starter for it. One of the things that I think I'm most proud of is launching a recognition scheme across the charity. So I don't know who has recognition schemes. Probably many of you who work privately perhaps already have them, but certainly most charities I've heard of have never done a recognition scheme. The first view is, how on earth can we have a recognition scheme? How on earth can we give our people money that's been raised? So we give the smallest amount of recognition to people. So I think it's £10. But what we have done is we've really linked it into our values. So we've created categories that are based around our values and our brand beliefs. And we've really pushed out the experience of it. So people nominate at any grade, you get emails, we do an annual awards where our whole board turns up and celebrates those people who have really demonstrated those values day to day. And actually, for the amount of money we've invested and the response we've had, it's tremendous. Our first year when we launched it last year, we had 350 nominations. And we've had over half of our staff either nominated or receiving award in just 1 year. So we really feel we've tapped into something there. And the best thing is, it's allowed us to say, what does United Strength look like? Because we have real examples now. It's not what I think it is, it's what people are actually doing out there in the business. We've really focused on creating a buzz. And that's sort of, there's a lot of things there, but buzz is a word we use quite a lot. It is that feeling of what does it feel like every day when we come to work. So we have a lot of people working regionally. Whilst we have about 1,500 staff based in central London, we have about 2,000 staff spread all the way across the UK running our shops and various research centres and research engagement. And so we've really made a push around getting roadshows and getting leadership and getting our scientists and getting people out there. Again, not rocket science, but do not underestimate it, and the battles we've had with our board, that it really matters, but the reception they get when they actually get out there, and people can see what it's like on the ground, and they can also hear from the horse's mouth what it's like and what some of those aspirations are. We've spent a lot of time thinking about our environment and what does it actually look like. We don't have a ping pong table. That's not right for us. We have really pushed, though, for collaborative spaces. United is one of our beliefs. How are we going to connect our people? So we've tried to create spaces in the office that people can work. And we've also got, so our meeting rooms, we've really tried to theme them around things that we think are really important. So Every Moment Counts, the first one, that actually shows things like scientists, Race for Life. It features some of the things that we actually do every day. So you can sit in those meeting rooms and you don't forget, might be talking about IT or process prioritisation, but you don't kind of lose touch to actually the cause that we're really going for every day. And every single one of those, we've got lots of stories about the scientists that we have up over the walls. We have lots of things from volunteers that we put up. And it's just trying to keep that story alive through everything that people see every day. Uniting moments are something that we use quite a lot. So we really try to get our staff behind initiatives that we're doing. So when we do an external fundraising campaign or when we have a major breakthrough, our staff hear about it first and we ask people to get involved. So 2 that I've just brought up here is we did World Cancer Day for the first time this year. So it was an external push, but actually we really focused internally. And it's all about uniting. So we got all of our staff all the way across the UK to link arms and did like a video run through of it. And we got people to obviously raise the money as well and get behind events. And then Stand Up to Cancer is our annual fundraising week. So again, all part of an external campaign. Some people may have seen something around Channel 4 on it on Friday. A few nods, brilliant. Watch out next year when we do our telethon again. But we've really just opened it up to staff and said, you do whatever you like. And for a while we tried to theme it. We tried to say, this is a theme we're going to do, this is focus. We've given up with that now. We're just saying, go for it. Doesn't really matter what you want to do. So this year, it was last week, we've had, HR did buy a lion, so for 20 quid, you could buy a lion anytime you wanted to do it, which is, it went down really, really well, really well. I'm actually thinking of nicking it and putting it into our recognition programme now. Our board served afternoon tea, so you could book into that. We did quizzes, we did bakes, we did dress up for Charity Shop Tuesday. That's a great way to raise money. So we bought clothes from cancer research shops, paid for the privilege of dressing up, paid more for the privilege of not dressing up, and then gave it back to Cancer Research UK shop. So what more do we need? And we raised £60,000, which is incredible, to be honest. And all of these things, we try to have like at least 4 or 5 touch points through the year that just remind people about why we're actually here, rather than just remembering we've got a job every day. And then local networks is the thing we've really focused on as well. So I was interested that you had champions up on one of your things. But we have said that we can't lead it from the centre. So we have a network of brand champions. So they're out there looking at the external brand, but also the internal brand. What's that experience? We've got comms champions. We've got the bags, which really make me laugh because that's a group of us at a head level. We are all female, which is worrying. So we're bags. And we just try to keep asking ourselves the question of, are we making it real and are we doing things that actually add value? And we're quite open to each other to say, you know what, this initiative's not working, or we've heard from people that it's not really resonating. So just trying to keep that focus. And we're about to launch a new, we're launching a sort of a Fit for the Future change programme, and we'll have a culture club, so a group of people out in the business who we're really saying, if these are the cultural shifts that we want to make, you spend time running workshops with your team to tell them what it is, and you work together to work out actually what that behaviour looks like, rather than us telling you it from the centre. So those, I think, are some of the things and the highlights I'd pull out that fit from any of the themes. So I just thought we'd help talk about challenges, because it definitely is not easy, and it still isn't easy. So I still think the challenges that we've had and that we're still experiencing is definitely engaging the non-believers. So we talk a lot about putting people into believers, ambivalent and the non-believers category. And even whilst we worked with our staff, there's no question about it, our fundraising and marketing side have embraced our brand beliefs and are running with it. Our scientists and those people involved in doing policy and government liaison, not quite so sure. And actually it's very interesting because you do talk about the energy and the values, but I think the language sometimes puts them off, and we haven't quite nailed that yet. So that's certainly something we're working on at this moment in time. How do we try and make it equally as relevant for everybody without completely unpicking it? If you've got any solutions, I'd like to hear that one. So we have focused on is this balance between dictating giving clear guidance and giving free will. So we often hear people saying, why do I have to believe it in that certain way? And we've been really clear at saying we can't dictate. That's why we've got behavioural prompts. They are suggestions, they are guidance. But if people choose to interpret things in their own way, as far as we're concerned, that's absolutely fine. We just want to make sure that people have got enough consistency around that. I think it's particularly hard in the charity sector because you get such passionate people with such strong values and beliefs that they don't necessarily want to give those up in order to come into the corporate value. So that's sort of really trying to say to them, find about what works for you and then how that works into that corporate side. The buzz is often easier than the harder initiatives. It's possibly why we spent more time doing the buzz. They're nice and easier. The harder ones, the reinforcers, getting into performance management, thinking about how it reflects into processes, thinking about what does united mean when we make decisions. That is tougher, and we've really had to stop and sort of think about that. And as a team, we try and sit down and say, let's do one initiative that's harder and like 2 buzz ones. And that kind of keeps us motivated as much as anybody else. Demonstrating ROI is difficult. I still haven't nailed that. How do you actually demonstrate that it adds value? And then struggling to take it external. So we've got a really clear brand externally. We've got our internal values. We're still trying to work with the organisation. The fundraising and marketing team use it externally with volunteers. That's working great. But how does it work with our scientific community? How does it work with policy government? We're still focusing a bit on that one. And we need to be sensitive to the spend of charity money. So I think that's the one thing I would say. We really haven't spent a lot of money on a lot of this stuff. We have given it out to people. When we run things like workshops and guidance on that, it's all generated by ourselves internally. So we are very mindful of that. But we also would say the value of agency spend is very critical every now. So you'll see, the lovely visuals that we've done. We have put that money in because it does look good. It does engage people. It does also help to give a bit of an external perspective. So we're trying to balance that out. In terms of lessons learnt, so my lessons here, top tips. Stealth is not sneaky, so we do an awful lot by stealth, just getting it out there. So these behavioural prompts would be a great example. Spoke to board, they were like, we don't want to define behaviours anymore. We're quite comfortable with what we've got, thank you very much. We're thinking, people need to know. So when we ran our week, we just asked people, do they mean anything to you? What would they look like? And all of a sudden, we had a body of evidence and a way of suggesting it. And then we would say to people, why don't you tell your head that it doesn't make much sense? So trying to use that sort of stealth way, putting things out low and letting see what comes through. Tangibility trumps all. I think anyone working in the HR sector may have this. It's not until you've actually got something physically you can show that people agree with it. So one of our things is sharp and brave. So I'm really trying to work with my team to say, try and produce something, give it a go, before worrying about making it absolutely perfect. So, get those brand beliefs out quite quickly, get those behavioural prompts out quite quickly, get people working with it, and then get the feedback about whether or not it's working rather than trying to get it perfect first of all. My view, the brand, internal comms and HR triumvirate rules. That was definitely the breakthrough for us. So when I first joined, we had brand doing its thing, HR doing its thing, and internal comms probably just stuck between the middle. It was without question when the 3 of us sat down and started working out that actually I as HR needed to understand our brand and our brand team needed to understand it was how people work day to day. That has definitely been the breakthrough that we needed. And I would just really encourage everyone to sit down. And the best experience for me the other day is when our head of internal brand was campaigning with one of our directors about how critical it was to define belief behaviours for how her team worked. And I just thought, we've made it then, because I will equally come and talk about how important brand is. Evidence overcomes detractors. We use our engagement survey like many other people, but I use it to assess how our culture is doing, not just about some of the ways of working and some of the sort of bits around the side, the hygiene factors. And so things like our recognition scheme, people were very sceptical, so we asked a question about it. We used that evidence to build it. We piloted it, everyone responded well. Bob's your uncle. So that really is worth it. Staff lead, we follow and flex very much to Iskara and Imogen's point. We do ask people what they think about it, and we're actually now trying to respond to it already. So we've heard that stories changing the world isn't working for about half our population. So we need to go back and have a think about what actually do we mean by that. Workshops, maybe it's just me, but I think the power of a workshop is great. So we spend a lot of time creating suggestions on workshops and giving it out to local managers to run. and we will brief them and we will train them and then we will leave them to it. And I actually think I've got a million Cascade packs now, but it does seem to work. So I would encourage you to do that. Because if you ask someone to have a session locally, they don't really know what they're doing. So that really works. And then I was just saying, agency spend can work if you use it sensibly. In terms of what next, very quickly, we need to build brand into recruitment. That's actually where we've been working with SMRS, so that's been really helpful. So at the moment, we haven't really done much to take our brand into the recruitment market. We think we could do more there. I mean, I've put yawn over our website. It's really boring. So we want to know, if we are united, if we're sharp and brave, we want to have fun, how do we bring that? And actually the research we've done has shown that people don't think of us as a fun place to work. And we are fun to work with. So we need to get that out there. We've got this Fit for the Future programme, so we've got a change programme. We need to bring that into our brand and make sure that people see the cultural shifts as all happening together. Alumni is something we haven't really done much into. We think we've probably got a lot of power there. People who have left us but could still advocate for us, not even necessarily from work, certainly in terms of raising money, so we'd like to do more there. And then we have the world's boringest internet ever in the history of the world. And whilst you don't have to have a sexy internet to make a difference, we're about united and about sharing ideas to be smart and brave. So we want to make sure our internet and our platforms around that really help it. The challenge is we haven't got much money to spend, so if anyone can do it for free, we'll take you up on that. And that's us. Thank you very much for your time.